Thank you, everybody, for joining us. It's our honor to host this webinar. This is part of our series of webinars that we've partnered with Moistus Kudan to present to parents the most important aspect, most important pillar of the chinuch of our children are the parents. We in the schools and the Moistus partner with you to help you in your work, but obviously the bulk and the responsibility of chinuch is on the parents, and it's our schos that we can offer this webinar series, and specifically at the webinar tonight, sending confident and resilient children to camp with Rabbi Zalmi Kudan, which is the last of our series and webinars for this year. The entire series has been dedicated in memory of Rabbi Shual Chanan ben Yosef Mordechai, whose yahrzeit is coming up, and may this webinar be a schos for him and give a lot of bracha to Yibadol and Chaim L'chaim, to his family. I'd like to begin with a kapitel Tillim. We know that the power and the koyach of Tillim, especially when Yidden come together, even in a virtual way, has tremendous koyach, and especially here as we're coming together for an important cause to help our children navigate and have a successful summer. So we will begin with kapitel Chaf, and may this be a schos for all the Yidden, wherever they are, and especially in Artzena HaKedusha. The Eibusher should protect them from all sorrow. We'll all say kapitel Chaf together. Hamatzeach Mizmor David Yancha Dinoi B'Yom Tzara Yitzagelcha Hashem Elei Yaakov Yishlach Ezra Mikodesh U'Mitzieni Sadecha Yizkor Kol Michaisecha Ve'Lascha Yidash Nesela Yiten Lecha Kivovecha V'Chol Atzascha Yimale Nirano B'Shvasecha V'Shem Eloheinu Nigel Yimale Adinoi Kol Mishalisecha Ati Yadati Kishiad Nemeshicha Yaneo Mishmei Kodshay B'Gvuras Isha Yiminai Ela V'Racha Ve'ela B'Asusim V'Anachnu B'Shem Adinoi Eloheinu Naskir Heima Karu V'Nafalu V'Anachnu Kamnu V'Anisoidad Adinoi Haishia Hamelach Yanenu V'Yem Karenu. Additionally, we will give tzedakah. Everyone could take some tzedakah and put it in a pushka. Rabbi always asks that together with Tillim, we should add in tzedakah as well. This webinar would not be possible without the incredible partnership of many Moitzes Chabad that partnered with us to bring this webinar to you. And I would like to acknowledge the camps that are partnered with us: Gan Yisrael Chai, CGI Chayale, Kavaya Vermont, Gan Yisrael Florida, Gan Yisrael Florida Boys and Girls, Camp Gan Yisrael Toronto. Additionally, the schools: Bader Hill Academy, Beis Chaim Mushka Los Angeles, Beis Chaim Mushka Toronto, Beis Chaim Mushka Postville, Beis Chomish, Beis Rivka, Beis Chan Arizona, Beth Rivka Academy, Cheder Chabad Hebrew Academy, Cheder Chabad of Muncie, Cheder Chabad of Philadelphia, Cheder Lubavitch Morristown, Cheder Lubavitch of Arizona, Cheder Menachem Los Angeles, Cheder North Carolina, Darchi Menachem Hebrew Academy, Lamplighters Jewish Academy, Lubavitch Educational Center, Lubavitch Hebrew Academy, Magen Israel Schools, Shluchim Alliance Schools, Shmuel Zahavi Cheder Chabad Toronto, Tamim Academy of Ponta Gorda, Torah Day School, and Yeshiva Timcha Tamim in Lubavitch, Montreal. Without further ado, it's my honor and schos to present to you Rabbi Zalman Kudan, principal of Lamplighters Jewish Academy, also a trainer of camps and for camps and counselors worldwide. As a matter of fact, earlier today, my own daughter is going to be a counselor in a CGI in the Midwest, and she had a Zoom today with Rabbi Kudan and a training, and this is something that is endorsed by many Moistus, in addition by the Federation of Camps, and Rabbi Kudan is a real, he's an expert, and it's a big schos that we can partner together with Rabbi Kudan to bring this workshop to you tonight. So without further ado, Rabbi Kudan.
Yeah, thank you very much. I echo the schos. I think it's really, this has been a dream of mine to somehow bring together the parents of campers so that the parents and the staff and the kids can all be on the same page. So I'm very grateful to Rabbi Schler and the Menachem Education Foundation for all the webinars, but this is one that I feel very passionate about. I do have the opportunity to train, like Rabbi Schler said, about 2,000 staff members every year from overnight and day camp staff through the Chinuch Tools platform. And we are very, very grateful to have this opportunity to share with you some of the things that staff know, but it would be so cool if our campers would know that before they get to camp. So now let's jump right in. So what does a confident and resilient camper look like? Number one, they participate. They participate in camp. Campers who come to camp and participate have a great time. Baruch Hashem, our camps have been getting better and better and better, and the programming is unbelievable. And the campers that are able to show up ready to participate, whatever it is, they have a great time. Number two, they know how to deal with difficult other people. When you put 700 people or 600 people or 500 people into a environment, an ecosystem, there's going to be people that jive and click, and there's going to be people that don't. Some people will love their counselor, and some people in that very same bunk are not going to get along with that counselor for whatever reason. We have different personalities. We've all experienced this in our own homes and our own places of work, and it is a truth that we get along with certain people and we don't get along with certain people. So it's important when our kids go to camp that they're able to deal with difficult other people. And finally, we want our children to be safe, emotionally and physically. And what we're going to try to do is offer 2 ideas for each of these 3 things, a total of 6 or maybe 7 tips that allow that parents, we can share with our campers. Everybody knows their child the best. Hashem has gifted our children to each one of us. So you know your children the best and which ones they would benefit from getting a little bit more of a deep dive into. So first of all, this is something that we teach all the counselors to share with their campers, that there's something called the Ganizi guarantee. Now, obviously not every camp is called Ganizi, so it's also whatever camp you're going to, they have the same guarantee. And that guarantee is that if you do everything on camp schedule, even the things you don't like, you're going to have a great time, guaranteed. And what we do is with a lot of the camps, the counselor will ask on the 3rd day of camp for everybody they introduce this at the beginning of camp, and I ask the campers to raise their hand on Wednesday or Thursday, a couple days into camp, right before lights out. Raise your hand if you have done everything so far on our schedule. And whoever puts up their hand, they ask them one by one, are you having a great time? And every single camper answers yes, because camp is a community family activity. And when we do things, when we participate, it's fun. I've done this many times, but we could take a group of adults and play duck, duck, goose. We're going to have fun. It's going to be fun because we're participating. And the 1 or 2 people that are watching from the side may not be having as much fun as we are playing it. And the fact is that the schedule is good. The things that we're doing are fun. And learning is good. And when you participate, you daven during davening time, you clean up during cleanup time. Camp is fun. And the way that camp is structured is that people and bunks that are participating have fun. They have a good time. And if unfortunately a camper is not ready to participate, that's when it starts getting into, they have to sit back, they have to make up davening time, they have to make up this type of time, they have to clean up during activities, and that's when it becomes less fun. So one of the things that I would love every camper to know right now is that if you just do everything on the schedule, even the things you don't like, you're going to have a good time. And you know what? We help each other. Because let's say you like soccer and the other campers don't like soccer so much. Well, if they play with you, you're going to have a much better game, right? Because everybody's playing. And then let's say you don't like arts and crafts so much, but the rest of your bunk does, or some other kids in your bunk do. You participate with them, they're going to be having a good time, and you're also going to have fun, because just like soccer is not so bad, arts and crafts isn't so bad. It's okay, especially if you're doing it with friends. And this is something that's just super helpful for a camper to come to camp knowing that I am going to try to participate in as many activities as much as humanly possible. One of the big obstacles to participation in camp is what the Welt calls homesick. and I call home missing. And the reason I don't like using the term homesick is because there's really nothing sick about missing your home. That's a very healthy feeling. Imagine, well, let me do it like this. I'm going to do the speech like I do for our campers. Baruch Hashem, I have the opportunity to run for the last 20 years day camp, for the last 12 years and two overnight camps, a boys and a girls overnight camp for Shulchan. And what we've seen is the following is very, very helpful for campers. You're feeling that you're missing your home. That's a healthy feeling. Some people call it homesick, but I don't. I don't believe that missing your mommy and tati is sick. I believe that's very healthy. Imagine a camper who didn't miss their mommy and tati. That doesn't sound very healthy. Imagine a camper goes and care less about their bedroom. They're so happy not to be in their bedroom. That doesn't sound healthy. It's very healthy to miss home. That's number one. Usually by then, the shoulders of the camper drop and their body starts to relax because they realize there's nothing wrong with them. And there isn't anything wrong with them. Number two, crying is good. I always tell them, have you ever been to a chasana? You ever went to the bedekin where the chassan covers the kala's face? What are all the ladies doing behind the kala? There's a bunch of ladies standing behind the kala. What are they all doing? Crying. Are they happy or sad? Crying is not a bad thing. Crying doesn't mean that you're hurt. Crying just means that you're overwhelmed with a very strong feeling. And this is a good feeling that you're overwhelmed with, a feeling that you miss your mommy, your tati, and your siblings, and your bedroom, and your home, a beautiful place. So you're crying. It's a good thing. The only problem is that sometimes if we home miss all day, if we have this very strong, intense, good feeling all day long, it's going to prevent us from doing some of the things we want to do in camp. We want to play sports. We want to daven. We want to learn. We want to have fun. We just want to chill. We want to be able to eat a meal without crying. And if I'm always thinking about this beautiful, great feeling, it's going to take away from some of camp. So we're going to follow what the Alter Rebbe says in Tani, that when you have a strong feeling, it's a good feeling. The example the Alter Rebbe was speaking about was merirus. If you feel bitter about an avera you did, if you think about it all day long, you're never going to do anything. It's going to prevent you from doing mitzvahs. It's going to prevent you from advancing in your Avodas Hashem. You're always going to be upset. So designate a special time to deal with that feeling. And then the rest of the time, you can enjoy. Rabbi Zalmi strongly recommends breakfast as an amazing time to home miss. It's the beginning of the day, you eat something, and then you can go out, either if the counselor allows you to go outside for a couple minutes, or if you have to do it in your seat by your breakfast table, you can put your head down, you can think about mommy, and then you can think about tati, you can think about your siblings, and if you cry, that's great. And if somebody in your bunk doesn't know yet that crying is a good thing, and they want to laugh at you, that's okay. When they get older, they'll learn that crying is a good thing. It means that you're overwhelmed by a strong feeling, and it's a very good way, very healthy way of expressing yourself. And this, I believe, is something that the campers that know, especially those of you that know that your campers have experienced home missing before, this is a very good thing to know before you come to camp, that you're going to experience some very strong feelings. They're good feelings. It would be amazing if we could designate certain times. The morning is a great time for that, because if you do it, if you're going to designate your home missing time for nighttime, you might lose out on sleep, and tired campers have a very hard time enjoying camp. All right. I'll mention that not only do tired campers have a hard time enjoying camp, but dehydrated campers also do. I'm very, very passionate about drinking tons of water. You know, when you're hydrated and you have enough water and someone steps on your toe, you say, ouch, they say, I'm sorry, you say, it's okay, and you move on. But if you're dehydrated and your body is in survival mode, someone steps on your foot, you could get very offensive. And you might feel like you're being attacked because your body's already on the defense. So it's important to be in a very, very hydrated state. You can tell your children that it's a little graphic, but if your urine is slightly yellow, you're already 25% dehydrated. So you want to have a lot of water to make sure you have good, clear urine. That's a good way for them to know that they're drinking enough water. How do we make sure that our children are able to deal with difficult other people? So one of the things that we teach campers and children and students, do this in school as well, it's always okay to ask any staff member or any fellow camper any question that begins with the words, "I'm wondering." So how does that play out? You see someone in your seat. So the Yetzer Hara might want to say, "Get out of my seat." A much more effective way is, "I'm wondering if I can have my seat back." You don't like an activity. Your Yetzer Hara might want to say, "This activity is stupid." A much more effective way of speaking to your counselor is, "I'm wondering if we could play something else. I'm wondering if we could play football instead of soccer." Your counselor tells you that you only have 1 minute left to go to bed, but you didn't finish brushing your teeth and you want to be healthy. So you look at the counselor straight in the eyes and you say, "I'm wondering if I could brush my teeth first." That's a very respectful way of asking. You're going to go very far when you open up conversations with "I'm wondering." I highly recommend that parents begin modeling this right now. When we ask our children to do things, we start overusing the "I'm wondering." I'm wondering if we could please clean up our room. I'm wondering if you what you like best for supper, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And as the children hear it a lot, they start to imitate us and they start to assimilate this into their way of speech. The next 3 slides are going to be the 3 parts of the friendship mindset. And each part on its own is very valuable. And when you put them all together, it's dynamite. And this is something I just want to be upfront. This is something that I believe takes time to learn. At the same time, I think that we have to start now. Let our children start now. And even if they don't get perfect at it this year, or in the next few weeks that we have before they go to camp, they'll be a lot better off than they were not starting this process. The idea of the friendship mindset is very simple. It's the idea of Yehavta l'reacha kamecha. Yes, I'm going to share this slideshow. And some of these resources are also on chinuchtools.com in a greater, if you go to digital resources, they're in a much more fleshed out way if you want to get the full edition of some of these tools. So the friendship mindset is a way of realizing the mitzvah of Yehavta l'reacha kamecha, to love your friend like yourself. In other words, treat everybody like a friend. And what we find is that the more you treat people like a friend, the more they treat you like a friend. Kamayim apanim apanim, Shlomo Melech says that the way water reflects a face, that's the way people reflect each other. And it's not a magic wand. It doesn't mean that if you say one nice thing, the other person is immediately going to start being nice. But over time, if you stick to it, if you keep treating these people like your friend, they will start to act friendly. It works. The first part is to make sure that you are indeed your own best friend. If you're not friendly with yourself and you don't believe that you are worthy and that you do good things and that you're comfortable and confident and are a person of Tzivus Hashem, a soldier in Hashem's world that Hashem put here, and you're not so confident about that, if somebody says that you're not good, you're going to believe it because you believe that about yourself already. So how do we exercise what I call the kamecha muscle? How do we make sure that our children come to camp with a stronger self muscle, kamecha muscle, that they love themselves, kamecha, even more? An easy tool is to keep a journal. I believe that every human being should do this, not only children going to camp, but every human being should every day. It says we're supposed to keep a cheshbon hanefesh. We're supposed to make an accounting. We're very, very good about accounting for the things that we didn't do right. We have to be better about also making the cheshbon hanefesh, the accounting of what we did do right. So writing down, and it must be written. When you think about something, you process that once. When you write it, you process it 3 times. Your hand is moving it, your eyes are seeing it, and your brain is thinking it. So we want to write down 3 things that I did or said well today, and who else was helped. And I strongly recommend sending a pen and a notebook together with your campers. That it's something they could do every night or every morning or by cleanup or by rest period, whatever they want to do. They should set aside a time to make sure to check in with their kamecha muscle to make sure that they know that they are doing good things and other people are being helped. That is step one. Step two is a mental mindset. And that is that I treat people like a friend. If they're not nice to me, I'm even nicer to them. So if someone says, you're, so that's the cloud. It's a mindset. I'm always looking at this person like a friend. So, I know a girl who went to high school and there were some mean texts that were sent at the public WhatsApp group about her on her third or fourth day of school. It was a new school she had just come to. So what she understood was, she's like, how do I look at this as a friend? She said, this must be a bully test. They're testing me to see if I'm bullyable or not. How long can that take? A couple days or so. So she decided for the next 3 days, she's just going to chill, do lunch by herself, and just let it ride. And after 3 days, the test will be over and they'll start being her friend. And meanwhile, she was nice to everybody. The principal even tried messing it up and tried getting them to apologize to each other, which in theory should have made it into a fight again. But in other words, right, bring out this girl said, I don't have anything to, I don't have any problems. If they want to apologize, they can, but I'm okay. Keep being nice, keep being a friend. 3 days later, the whole thing was forgotten. They went on to the next drama. These girls are very, very close friends. They go to each other's houses. Everything's fine. Just look at everybody like a friend. They're just trying to help me. They're trying to do something nice to me. If my best friend would say my shirt is ugly, what would I say? I would say, thanks for letting me know. And that's really the third part. The third part is to respond like I would to my best friend. If my best friend said, you stink at basketball, I know they use a different word nowadays, I might say, you're right. I wish I was as good as you. That dress is not a Shabbos dress. Oh, man. Could you teach me how to dress nicely? You dress so classy. I wish I could dress like you. Just respond like a friend. Start complimenting them. At first, they might mock you. At first, they might try to make fun. At first, they might try to test your limits. But if you just keep doing it, people will see, hey, this person always acts like a friend. And people want to be friendly with people who always act like a friend. It's human nature. You might hear a rumor about yourself. You can say, do you believe that? And no matter what the person answers, yes or no, you can say, okay, well, you can believe what you want. It's not nice to make people believe things. It's not nice to call people mean. It's not nice to call people rude. It is nice to respond like a friend. Hey, I'm still your friend. I still like you. I notice you're good, even when you notice my bad. You want to believe something about me? Okay, that's your right. You're allowed to do that. And as soon as you allow it to happen, it's no longer fun. It's no longer cool. What if a friend doesn't want to play with me right now? Well, if they're my friend and they want to play with someone else, gesundheit. I want you to play with whoever you want to play with. And whenever you want to play with me, I'm ready. And as soon as you allow that space, and it's okay, suddenly your friendship mindset affects them. And what we find is that it really is true, kamayim upon him, that the more you dig into this and the more you practice this and the more you get good at this, of always looking at people, and we can practice right now because Baruch Hashem, most of us have siblings at home, and there's plenty of opportunities, at least in my house, to practice the friendship mindset and to practice focusing on the positive and kamecha, to focus on our own selves. And in that way, we are able to um, really dig in to these um, friendship ways of looking at people. And if our children can go to camp wanting to do this, even just wanting to do this, wanting to be a friend, you're not going to get it right every time. There's going to be times you're tired. The counselors woke you up the night before for a cereal party in the middle of the night. I hope they don't do that anymore, but I think they might. And the supper wasn't so good. You're a little hungry. You're not always going to get it right. But if you want to get it right, if you want to act like a friend, and you want to check in with yourself every night, and make sure you write down 3 things, you're going to see a lot more success in these areas. By the way, if anybody has any questions, you're more than welcome to ask them in the question and answer box, in the chat box, and the Metta Shem will get to them at the end. So far, just to go review a little bit, we spoke about participation in camp. We spoke about the Ganizi guarantee, that having our children go to camp with the mindset that they are going to participate in everything, and that's what gives them a good time, that's a guarantee to have a good time. Second of all, we spoke about home missing as being a good feeling, crying is okay, and to try to set a time like breakfast to home miss. Then we spoke about an opening, a difficult conversation opener. Anytime you want to say something to someone, you're not sure how to say it, start with "I'm wondering." If something you want to tell your counselor and you don't know how to say it, start with "I'm wondering." If something you want to tell a camper, they're very loud or very dirty, you can say, "I'm wondering if we could be a little quieter, I'm trying to fall asleep." Anytime you start with "I'm wondering," you're going to have a good sentence. And then we learned about the friendship mindset. Number one, to check in with ourselves, to write 3 things that I did or said well every day, to look at everyone as a friend. Try to believe that everything they're doing is just to make you better, just for your benefit. And then to respond like a friend, compliment them, allow them to believe what they want, allow them to take the space that they want. All right. Now we're going to get into safety. One of the things that we teach in camp, and this is a industry standard, it's a mandatory standard of the American Camp Association, and it's definitely should be a rule in every Maisid, is called the rule of 3. That we always need 3 or more people in any space, any private space. And a private space could be a bunkhouse, it could be a arts and crafts room, it could be a baseball field that's not nearby anybody else. It could be a rowboat that is going out into the water away from people. Anytime there are 3 people, anytime there's a private space, we need to have at least 3 people there. Okay, the rule is a little bit more intricate. In other words, if we're dealing with changing or with a medical need that involves uncovering the child, then we would have to have 2 staff members specifically. So there is a more nuanced rules to this, policies to this rule. But what the children need to know is that they should never be alone with anybody, not a counselor, not another camper. Try always to have at least 3 people there, and if not, walk outside. If you walk into a bunk and your counselor's there, the counselor should say, "Please give me a minute," rule of 3. That's what the counselor's supposed to say. But even if the counselor doesn't say it, walk outside. You know the rule of 3. And this way, you'll always be able to be safe. There's always another person there. If anything makes you feel uncomfortable, if anything's wrong, you will always have a third person there to be able to make sure that you understood things correctly. And if there's something that happened, they can tell someone. And this is very, very important. So I believe very strongly that every camper should go to camp knowing the rule of 3. They have to understand the rule of 3. They have to understand why there's a rule of 3. The Chachamim were brilliant. They made a rule called Yichud. It's exactly the same rule. Of course, that applies to specifically men and women, but the same rule would apply to any 2 people, really. But for sure, I would emphasize that a staff member and a camper should never be alone. It's against the rule. It's against the rule of 3. The rule of 3 is a very important rule. And you might even want to tell your children that if you find that there's a counselor that's not keeping the rule of 3, that's a good time to use it. "I'm wondering," and go over to that counselor and say, "I'm wondering about the rule of 3 because this counselor, was asked me to go on a rowboat and there was only me and him there." That would be a very appropriate way to use the "I'm wondering" opening. While we're on the topic, I get a lot of times frustrated parents telling me that they're shocked about different things, different conversations that went on in their children's bunks. Unfortunately, in the gullus that we're in today, children know way too much at way too early of an age. And I believe very, very strongly that we cannot send a kid of any age to camp without having many conversations. I don't think it's one conversation. I think that we really have to make sure that they hear from us, the parents, first about kedusha and tznius and about the way that our body is holy and special, and the special mitzvahs that are given to the body are holy and special. I am not. I don't think I'm an expert on the topic. Please contact your mashpia or whoever, your mechanech, that is the top expert. I don't claim to be an expert, but here's a few things that can get the conversation started. And hopefully this can be helpful not only for camp, but b'chlal. I think it's very important that our children hear this from us first. So first of all, I would say that teenagers these days are 10, 11, and preteens are 8 and 9. So whatever you thought when you were a child, as becoming a teenager, whatever your parents were telling you, I believe that's happening way, way younger. Could be it's even happening physically younger, but for sure happening knowledge-wise. With just the fact is that people are much more exposed as much as we try, and even if we're very good about it, there's no guarantee that all of the friends and everybody else was 100% good about it, and the friends, and they're coming together in camp. And as much as we try to supervise, and we have the council to supervise, there's no question that the Yetzer Hara likes to make this exciting. So let's try our best to get the kedusha message first. One inyan that's very simple for even the youngest child is that our Torah is the holiest thing. The holiest object in the world is the Torah. And the Torah is kept inside an Aron HaKodesh, and the Torah has a mantle, it has a cover. And inside the Aron HaKodesh has a door, and then in front of the door there's a curtain. It's kept in the most private, special, quiet place, and it's only used for the mitzvah of reading the Torah. That's the only time we take out a Torah. And the same thing is true about our bodies. Our bodies are holy. They're a very, very, very special, holy thing that Hashem has given us to be able to do Torah and mitzvahs with, to be able to help the neshama do holy mitzvahs with. And the holiest parts of our body are kept the most private, just like the Sefer Torah, which is the holiest thing, is kept the most private. And the private parts of a person, those are holy things. They're used for special holy mitzvahs, specifically when you get married. And again, every child according to their age and understanding. But the bottom line, and again, I'm not trying to be an expert, but that's the idea that this is a holy, special thing, and therefore it's kept private. And there are people, the Yetzer Hara loves to take holy things and make them not so holy. Unfortunately, we're dealing with it right now. Eretz Yisrael is always a focus of the Klippa. It's the holiest land, and therefore all the evil people, they want to engage with it. And the same thing is true with our holiest parts of our body, that people want to say it's gross, and they want to say it's uchia, they want to laugh and make little jokes about it. That would be like laughing about a Sefer Torah. That would be laughing about something that's very, very holy and special. It's not something that we do. We don't do that. And this is true also about the holiest mitzvah of kedushin. It's also a private and special thing. That's why we don't talk about it and we don't joke about it. And it could be, and this is what it is. This is the mitzvah. We again, each person to the right age. This is what the mitzvah is, and this is the part of the body that it's used for. But the bottom line is that it's holy and it's special, and that's why we keep it holy. That's why you don't hear us talking about it all the time, because it's like the Sefer Torah. It's in a private, closed place. Use every opportunity to bring this conversation up and remind them again. In our school, we like to send out a message. Today's a good day to do chazara, because we learned about, Yehuda and Tamar, or Light and his daughters, or something. And Chumash, it's a good opportunity. But unfortunately, there's also other opportunities. We drive around, we see things that are not tznius or not good, or we see things that are tznius and exceptionally good, and we're able to say, "Oh, look, that's a beautiful way of kedusha. Look how that person is being sensitive." Or the child sees two people, two guys in the street acting not tzniustic. You could say, "Look, aren't we so lucky that in our Torah we know that this is something that's supposed to be kept holy and special?" And try to answer those questions directly. I'm just bringing this up that now is a good time to do it, because if your child has not been exposed to this first by you, it is very hard to believe that in camp there is not a very high risk of information that is not appropriate being shared, as much as we try to avoid it. That is unfortunately the fact, and please speak to your mashpia and Rav for your personal family guidance. The final nakuda that I want to give, and then I hope we could get some questions and answers. The final nakuda is about the rules of camp. I think it's very healthy for our campers to go to camp knowing the rules of camp. So Baruch Hashem, I've been doing this for a long time, and we haven't changed the 3 rules of camp. The 3 rules of camp are respect, camper, staff, and stuff, follow directions from all staff members, and be where you're meant to be. Those are the 3 rules. And I think it's very valuable for our children, before they go to camp, to look at these rules and to explain to us what they feel this means. What does it look like to respect campers? What happens if a camper ruins it for your bunk and Shabbos competition? What happens if a camper is being mean to you? What happens if all the other campers are being mean to a camper? How do we respect them then? Etc., etc. What does it look like to respect staff? Why is it important to respect staff? Is it really a big deal to take a staff member's stuff and put toothpaste on it? Is that such a big thing? It's a prank. They all do it. Everybody does it. Why do we not want to do that? Why is it important to respect staff? Let the kid come up with some ideas. And then, of course, respecting stuff. There's a mitzvah of Bal Tashlis. There's a mitzvah of Gzela, Geneva, right? These are real mitzvahs. We're not allowed to steal. We're not allowed to destroy things meaninglessly. And what does that look like in camp? How does that play out? Following directions from all staff members. I like to ask the question, when is it difficult for you to follow directions? When is it okay? When do you struggle with that? Well, by davening, by learning class, by this, by that. Okay, so what's your plan? Because we want to be someone who follows directions from all staff members. And I believe in my children that they can do this. And I believe that you want to be a camper that but sometimes it's hard. So what are we going to do? Let's make a plan now. And be where you're meant to be. Again, this is primarily a safety rule for camp. It's impossible for counselors to keep track of the campers, and a lot of the bullying and inappropriate stuff that happens in camp happens when the campers are not where they're supposed to be. So it's a safety issue. It's also a part of the Ganazi guarantee that if we're always where we're supposed to be, we're going to be having a good time. And that is the and so be where you're meant to be. This is a very important rule of camp, and having these rules are in the kid's head before they go. Let them know. Not every camp is going to say the rules exactly like this. But if they could keep these 3 rules, and I've been doing this for a long time, if there's anything in camp that a child does that is not what we want them to do, it is in conflict with at least one, if not 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of these rules, right? And this is very important. All right. So again, to review, we have just going to go back to the beginning, and then we'll take some questions. We spoke about participating in camp with the Ganazi guarantee, and to do every activity, no matter what, and to look at home missing in a positive and okay way, to be okay home missing, and to try to designate time. The second thing we spoke about was having a friendship mindset, being able to deal with difficult people by getting good at the I'm wondering opener. So when they have a problem, they can open up a question or speak up using I'm wondering, and always be okay with that. And then the 3 parts of the friendship mindset, to write down 3 things they did well every day. So they're their own best friend. It doesn't matter so much when someone else puts me down, because I know I'm doing good things. And then to look at everybody else. as a friend and try to understand, why would my friend do this to me? They must be my friend, so why do they do this to me? And then to respond like a friend by complimenting the other person and allowing them to believe what they want and play with whom they want. Then we spoke about two safety ideas. Number one, the rule of three, that we always need to have three or more people together. We're never alone with someone else. And along with that, to make sure that the conversations of tznius and kedusha are started by the parents. And finally, the three rules of camp: to respect camper staff and staff, follow directions from all staff members, to be where you're meant to be, to have a real open conversation with the campers so they are familiar with this and they've thought a little bit about where they struggle with those things and what type of plan they will have. All right. Now, I am going to try to go through some of the questions. The first question was, will the slideshow be shared? And the answer is yes, it will be, Mitzvah Shem. And that is that. So we're happy for that. The second question is, why do I recommend breakfast as a time for home missing? It would appear that that would make them kind of ruin their day, right? Because now they're going to be the whole day dealing with this home missing. So what we have found is that nighttime is the most difficult time for a camper to home miss because there's nothing to end it. It's an endless loop. They're in bed and they just don't have anything to distract them or to help them move on from that feeling. So even if they recognize that it's a good feeling, and even when they realize that they're doing something positive and the crying is okay, there's nothing next. So they go to bed, they have a hard time falling asleep. The next day they're tired. It's very hard to be in a good mood when you're tired. It's very easy to spiral, and it creates a challenge. What we find is that by breakfast, they eat, they're up, they're fresh, they eat, they're in a good mood, they eat breakfast. Usually after breakfast is a short break, and then it goes right into learning class, and their campers have to go to learning class. They're in learning class, their mind is distracted, they're able to move on, and it seems to work very well. Okay, going to the question and answer box. Do I recommend sending a child to camp who is explicitly saying they do not want to go? This is a good question. So this is a hard one because everybody knows their children best, and I don't know if there's a one-size-fits-all answer to every camper. I'm going to answer with a little bit of a story. There was a camper that once came to one of our overnight camps, and he was a 12-year-old camper, and he was extremely having a hard time, a lot of anxiety, really difficult time. And the parents wanted him to stay. And he stayed. The camp started Monday night. Monday night, he did not sleep a wink. Tuesday night, he barely slept. Wednesday, he was having a really hard time, and I'm speaking to him, and he says to me, he says, Rabbi Zalmi, I cannot do Shabbos. So I called the parents. The parents agreed. They made him a ticket. Zadie's going to pick him up, bring him to the airport. I get a call that night from the father. He says, maybe we should have Zadie intentionally come late. They'll miss the plane. He'll have no choice. He'll stay in camp because during the day, he's having an okay time. I took a deep breath and I said, I believe my responsibility is to your son, my camper. And this is the way I see it. Either we could force him to stay in camp, either he'll think it's an accident or he won't. Will most probably lose his trust. Well, definitely he's going to have a hard time at night. But Shabbos he's very nervous about Shabbos for good reason. It's going to be very hard. Or we could send him home, make the flight, and at your Chabad house, bake him a cake, and have him stand up in front of the whole shul by Kiddush and share some of the things he just experienced being away from home for the very first time, and some of the experiences he had and the friends that he made, and let him celebrate the success of being away from home for the very first time. I think it's important for us to look at what our children are doing as being successful. If the child's able to go to camp, and camp last year was a success, let's first of all celebrate that success. Let's understand where the child's coming from. Maybe we need some help understanding where the child's coming from. Why does the child not want to go? There's something bothering them. And if the reason is legitimate and it's not healthy, it's not productive to the camper, and it's just going to cause a lack of trust and a feeling that they're not wanted by their parents, God forbid, or whatever it is. So then we have to be very careful. If it's just nerves and it's just getting into it and their best friend is not going and they're going to be fine. So again, you know your child the best and speak to people who know your child. But I don't know that there's a one size fits all answer. I will say that it's not always a good idea to send the kid to camp. I don't think camp is perfect for everybody. What should I do if my son's camp doesn't allow any kind of wipes, even flushable ones? He gets severe rashes without them, and now he says he doesn't want to go if he can't bring them. So this is a problem. The problem is a very big problem because we really have a challenge that our camps are going to be full, whether or not we send our kids or not, and it creates a challenge. I know there are different camps that deal with these things differently. I would encourage you in the future to, to do a little research because I think there are camps that would be more flexible. I know that camp septic systems, from personal experience, could be extremely poorly made, and I understand the rule. I wish that a conversation with the director that starts with "I'm wondering" would lead to a desirable result. There's special garbage bags that they use for diaper, for the diaper genies and those types of things. Maybe they could be used to store the wipes and put into a regular garbage can and it won't smell. Maybe there's another, or Ziploc bags. Maybe there's a way to get around it. But I hope that our directors can work with you. I really do. Because the child needs to be able to have what he needs. Can a child have a positive experience going by himself with no friend in the bunk? Absolutely, yes. I did this my whole life. I was a child in Albany, New York, and I had very few classmates, and they almost never put me together with them in my bunk. Uh, and I think it's important for kids to do that with the training of the friendship mindset, with the tools of the kumecha muscle, knowing what to do when someone upsets you, knowing that there are kids that don't know how to speak nicely, and what do you do when that happens, and having a plan, and being able to speak up to a head counselor or a counselor saying, I'm wondering if you could help me. This kid is not being nice and I don't know what to do. And role playing that with your child. I like to role play with children, having them look at me in the eyeballs while they speak, and they often will look away mid-sentence, and I say, try it again, looking at me the whole time. Let them build confidence in asking for help, because that's going to be important as well. Let's see. What if they can't help miss their mom at nighttime? How can they stop the feeling? It's a great question. First of all, we need to emphasize to this child that how wonderful and beautiful and amazing it is that they think about their mother often, and they have such a beautiful relationship with their mother that they can't fall asleep at night without thinking about their mother. It's so beautiful. It's so good. This is not a problem. This is a good thing. The problem is that it's keeping us up at night. That's the problem. In other words, the problem is tomorrow morning I'm going to be tired. But right now, I'm doing a good thing. That itself often is enough to relax the camper. If it's not, again, I believe that allowing them the opportunity to do it at breakfast or another time during the day gives them opportunities that they are able to learn over time. Maybe they won't be able to learn right away, but over time they will get used to home missing at a different time and being able to compartmentalize and say, right now, I know I miss my mommy. I know it's a good feeling. They have a picture, they look at it, they kiss it like a night, and they're able to push off the session for the next day. Someone asked, I'm wondering, so thank you. If a camper takes medicine, should he bring it to camp and hand it to the nurse? So I was an EMT in camp a few times, or an assistant EMT. And I remember once I was a counselor also at one point, and I saw a camper fall off the bunk, and I ran over to them. And as I got closer, the camper fell again. I rushed him to the infirmary. We opened up the camp file, nothing. And we take him to the emergency room. Of course, it was Erev Shabbos. And take him to the emergency room. And it turns out the child has epilepsy. He brought medicine to camp, lost it for whatever reason. and was having seizures. I don't, I cannot recommend having a child being responsible for medicine. I think it's not a good idea. I think it's a doubly not good idea because there's other children in the bunk. So even if we trust our child and we know that they're responsible with their meds, the chances that someone else will find it and test it is very, very high and could be catastrophic. So I think we have to be extremely, extremely careful to make sure that all medicines are dealt with the way that the camp wants us to in the medication management system. I daven and hope and pray that camps can be extremely sensitive to children who are sensitive about taking meds. I hope that they can do it in a quiet way. We've managed to do that many, many years in our camp, but I cannot imagine a kid being responsible for medication in camp. It just does not sound like a good idea. Someone is recommending for wipes a Perry bottle. That might be another alternative solution. You could try it out now and see if that works. Thank you. What if my daughter is so upset that there was no space for her in camp? It was full. This is a big problem. This is a big problem. I spoke to one camp director this year. They turned away 244 applications. Spoke to another camp. They turned away over 100 applications. Spoke to another teen camp. Over 300 applications they turned away. This is a real problem. We need more camps. We need more good camps. And definitely something that needs to happen. At the same time, we have to believe in Hashgacha Pratis. My wife and I are in our, I think, third round of Shara B'Tachon. We learn a couple of pages every Shabbos together. Highly recommend it. Really helps us see the world in a great way. I think that our children are going to end up exactly where they're supposed to be this summer. Of course, we have to do our ishtadlos, we have to try, and we have to do our best. But we have to trust Hashem also. I had a student who was the entire class went to one camp. He was the only one turned away. It was I felt I felt wrong. I felt like, come on, what are you doing to this kid? He went to a different camp. He came back that summer, and he literally had the best time of them all, and it was perfect for him. Okay, someone's going back to the medication question and asking about melatonin. Maybe that's something that could help them fall asleep. Again, you have to work with your camp's policies. I think it's very important. I know that in our camp, melatonin and inhalers and EpiPens are three things that we allow our counselors to handle. So it's not going to be in the custody of the camper, it'll be in the custody of the counselor. They don't have to go to the infirmary every night, which is a massive schlep, but they can go to the counselor. But this way, there's an adult that is supervising it, so it doesn't become something that all the campers think it's cool and they're taking a melatonin party. We have no idea what kids are doing, if they're mixing medications, if it's good for them, it's healthy for them. It could be a real problem. I hope that camps have procedures and policies in place that allows the kid to take melatonin at night without having to schlep 3 acres away to the infirmary that's closed. All right. I have a few minutes left. Is there any other questions? If one of the other panelists see. Oh, visiting day. Is visiting day recommended for a child who is emotional? If a parent can't come for visiting day, does it have a negative impact on a child? What do camps do with kids that the parents can't come? So this is a great question. You know your child the best. I can't answer for your child whether visiting day is going to set them off or set them on. But again, I look at missing mommy and tati as a good thing. I'm not trying to avoid kids missing their mommies. I think that's a good thing. I think it's okay. You know, but at the same time, you know your child the best, and maybe that's a conversation you want to have with your child. It's going to be hard the first few days of camp after not, missing mommy, even though it's a good feeling, and Rabbi Zalmi explained it well, and it's a good feeling, but it's not, it's a lot, it's emotional. Do we want to do that again after visiting day? Is that going to be harder? Most camps during visiting day do have the counselors look out for the kids who don't have a visitor, and they do something special with them. I know that that is something that happened to my kids. Uh, if you know someone, if you know a staff member that's there, maybe you can have them specifically look out, give them a couple dollars to buy them something for the canteen on visiting day. But that is definitely something that should be considered. Um, I would definitely not send the kid to camp just because I can't visit them on visiting day. It's one day, they'll figure it out, they'll be okay. And I noticed a few camps that are not doing visiting day, which was interesting. Okay, next question. I was bullied in camp when I was 12. My counselor participated. How do we make sure things like that don't happen? Unfortunately, first of all, I'm sorry that happened. It's not okay. It's not okay. It's really, really not okay when our staff do not model the Havas Yisrael that we are sending our kids to camp to learn from them. It's really not okay. I also had counselors that were not the greatest. I know I also had counselors that were the greatest. I know the difference. And for this reason, I spend a lot of time every year trying to get as many counselors as I can to try to get themselves in a mindset to be in the right place. We can't prevent it from happening. The best thing I could offer you is to tell your child what to do when someone's mean to them. To look that counselor right in the face and say, wow, this counselor's trying to build me up. She must be trying to make sure that I'm the best unbullyable person in the world. Even the counselor's trying to make sure I'm not bullyable. I'm going to treat the counselor like a friend too. And look at the counselor and say, wow, you got me. That was a really good insult. I wish I could insult as well as you. High five. And practice it and role play it. Counselors can't be mad at people that don't fight back. You can't. It just doesn't work. By the way, if you want a very comprehensive friendship mindset thing that was created by my boss at Lambeau Jewish Academy, Mrs. Maracheli Matchnik, it's on our website, chinuchtools.com, in the digital tools, digital resources tab on the top. It's a long exercise, but you could try it. You might even want to try it with that counselor that bullied you and see if you can see yourself look at that counselor as a friend and turn around that attitude and see if you can help it with the with the with your daughter, maybe to role play that type of mindset shift and send her with a copy, so that if it happens, they can do the switch. The friendship mindset. That's on chinuchtools.com. Now, someone asked a really really good question. How much should I disclose if a child is high functioning autism? How much do I disclose to the counselors? Meaning, it may negatively impact the way the child is treated by the counselor because teens don't know much about the nuances of the diagnosis. So I want to, I think this deserves a lot of attention, this question. The best thing that you can give that counselor is every possible tool to protect your child, to care for your child, to understand your child, and to know how to react when your child does something that might be considered misbehavior, but they're really not trying to misbehave. I work with a lot of children, and there is a child on the spectrum who, during COVID, got sent to the principal's office because he told the teacher, "How come your mask isn't over your nose?" And the teacher was sitting behind the plexiglass window, and instead of having the patience to say, "What made you say that?" the teacher sent them to the principal's office. And as soon as I told him, I said, "You know that glass screen in front of the teacher's desk? That's his mask." Oh, okay. So he is wearing a mask. Okay. Um, so I think we have to be very, I think more the better. If you could get a letter from the therapist or from yourselves, the parents, that says, this is what you might expect, this is what works, this is what doesn't work. Those are, to me, that's the best thing you could do. And as a counselor, I appreciate it. One of my good friends always says, send the tip to the counselors before the summer. Why wait to the end? Okay, fine. But that's, I don't know if that's, okay, fine. Okay. Someone asked for the website. The website is chinuchtools.com. It's right over here on the screen. And if you go to digital resources or digital tools on the top, you will see some of what we're looking for here. Um, Okay. The other information will be shared by Menachem Education Foundation, the same way that you signed up. You'll get an email, I believe, with a survey and the slideshow that you were watching. So all those resources will be there. I'd like to thank all my campers who watched this, my former campers. We're getting some shout outs here. The recording also will be sent out, yes? Okay. Is there anything else? If there's anything else, we'll wait one more minute. But I just want to once again thank all of the parents here. I just think one thing that has to be said is that sending our kids to camp is a tremendous sacrifice. It is not easy. If you live out of town, especially flights and everything, it's extremely. It takes a lot of resources and a lot of trust and a lot of tillim to send our kids to camp. And I have seen it again and again and again. We have to trust the Rebbe that he knows what he's talking about. Camp is a great place for our children to develop socially, emotionally, physically. Let's prepare them as best as we can, and let's daven that all of our camps are in Yerushalayim. Let's appreciate the capital Tillim at the beginning. I was having kavanah that all the head staff that are in Eretz Yisrael should make it to camp on time, and we should have an amazing summer. I'll just, because I said I'll take one more question. How do we make sure that the kids' medicine gets to the staff member? This is something that I would email the camp about. The camp should have a procedure for collecting medication and a way to get it done. I know that, so I don't think it should, they should just make sure, please make sure that it's marked with your child's name and the correct dosage. Best way to prepare my daughter who has a small class to be in a big environment. I will never forget my first day in camp. And when I found out that there's more Jewish kids my age than I thought existed in the whole world, that was a very overwhelming experience. I don't know that you can, I don't know if that's something you can imagine without being there. I think the one thing that you could, the one thing that was helpful for me was my kamecha muscle, knowing that I'm good and I know myself and I have some tools and talk about it, listen to her, and see what we could do. Phone calls, and what can a mother do if she feels like it's hard for her to communicate with her son when he goes away for camp because the phone calls are very short? First of all, you have to hope that your son is not like mine, who I have different sons. Some of my children called every single week and every opportunity. Some of my sons, unfortunately, ended up in the emergency room, and that was my one way to get a hold of him because he finally had to call me. But Baruch Hashem, he's okay. But I think if your son knew, maybe write him a little plain letter or a bus letter. If your son knew how much it would mean to you to call home when he hears that it's his bunk's turn, if he would come and call, I think that's very helpful. Sending emails to your camper is very helpful. It's a one-way communication. You don't get any response back, but they do get the emails. And you can mention in the email also that you're waiting very much for the phone call. And take care of yourself and your own anxiety and speak to your mashpiyim and your mental health team to make sure that you are managing yourself well. We definitely don't want to be a cause of anxiety for the child. They're having, but definitely this is, yeah, those are small things you could do to hope and pray that they call. But in my experience, if they don't call, they're probably having a really good time. All right, everybody, thank you so much. You can reach out to me on my email. It will be on the slideshow. It's on the screen. If you have specific questions, you want to follow up privately. And everybody should have a wonderful Atzlacha summer and only the best.